Some new trade intel on Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Let's go through all those items. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, like always, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Let's keep growing this channel together. All right, so we've got some new trade rumors about Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Let's just go through them. This first one comes from Jake Fisher on the latest Stein Line. Jake Fisher just wanted to go into, he added some new insight into the Walker Kessler situation. He says the Jazz and Walker Kessler, meanwhile, have no current momentum on an extension, sources say. Kessler is expected to enter restricted free agency next summer, as first reported by Tony Jones. We've already talked about that. While the Jazz decide in the coming months whether to act upon the ongoing trade interest they are sure to receive in the 24-year-old center. So that's the new item. The Jazz over the next few months are probably going to decide on whether they are going to trade Walker Kessler or not. Personally, I think a trade at this point, if you had to pick, if the Jazz were going to trade Walker Kessler or Lauri Markkanen, either of them, both of them, whichever, if you were betting, I think it's probably more likely at this point, based off of these trade negotiations, that Utah trades Walker Kessler instead of Lauri Markkanen. And the reason being, we got the rumor from Zach Lowe that Walker Kessler is asking for a lot, and the Jazz do not want to pay him as much as he's obviously asking for. That's clear. If the Jazz were happy with how much he was asking, the deal would be done. Walker Kessler is extension eligible right now. And we had some centers go out and get some big money. And I'm guessing that Walker Kessler felt like he could get that same money from the Jazz. But the way the Jazz have been playing with Nurkic this preseason, the fact that Kessler is not even playing, I feel like the Jazz are really looking at how they have this young core playing, and it's going to help them make some decisions if they want to build this with Kessler or not. But it's very obvious, and just according to this report from Fisher, they are going to make a decision in the next few months. So basically, starting now, don't be surprised if something happens, because there are going to be teams out there asking for Walker Kessler. And that's the other thing that Jake Fisher mentions in this latest article is we've written extensively about the Lakers' past trade interest in Kessler, and I'm told Phoenix also weighed an approach for Kessler in the summer before the Suns went forward with their draft night trade to acquire Williams from Charlotte. So the Phoenix Suns were interested in Walker Kessler, and we already knew that the Lakers are interested in Walker Kessler. So that's two teams we know that might be, although the Suns already have Williams on their team, but he's not super reliable in terms of health. They also drafted Common Malawach. Is there a trade scenario where Utah could say, hey, we'd rather take Common Malawach because we feel like he has more long-term potential to be an outside shooter? It's a risk. And maybe that's the reason the Suns might do a move like that, where, Walker Kessler's a little bit more of a sure thing. There's a real cap on what he can be as a player with he's not a good free throw shooter, and there's just not a lot of offensive game for Walker Kessler outside of just rolling to the basket and dunking near the rim. They might be willing to do something like that, or maybe that ship has sailed. But we do know that the Jazz are going to weigh their options, and there might be multiple teams looking to trade for him. All right, so on top of that, Fisher talked about the Lauri Markkanen trade situation. Basically, he went into what was going on because Mark Stein had reported that the Jazz were interested in some sort of move. He goes on to say, elsewhere in Utah, after my former Sports Illustrated colleague Chris Mannix described Lauri Markkanen as available for trade earlier this week, we naturally checked in with some league insiders. So basically what Fisher says, and sorry, I said Mark Stein, it was Chris Mannix. Fisher says that the Jazz told him they're not shopping him, but they are willing to listen. If people want to call and make a trade offer about Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz will listen. The Jazz have refuted that through different reports. Austin Ainge, he made a pretty clear report through Ben Anderson. Also, just on the mic, said no, not trading him. and also kind of commented on the Zach Lowe rumors. And Zach Lowe replied to that in his latest podcast, basically said that was not particularly nice the way he said those things. And then maybe in some sort of little retaliation, and these are things that I kind of notice, is Zach Lowe on his pod talked about how, Walker Kessler is a nice player. He's fine. He's a starting caliber big, but he's nothing more than that. So if Austin Ainge is trying to drum up some sort of trade interest, probably not the best idea to be attacking the guys that might be helpful in building trade value with players. Maybe. Zach Lowe has talked about Markkanen being the most interesting trade candidate on the market, and I don't think that has changed. And even in his pod, and I enjoyed what Zach Lowe said, basically talking to Austin Ainge through his pod, and you can bet that Austin Ainge is probably going to hear it, but he says, I know you have to say something. I know what you have to say. So Zach Lowe knows something. We'll see if anything actually comes to fruition. But basically what we've seen over these last 2 games of preseason is that Taylor Hendricks and Ace Bailey look pretty darn good together. And when Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen come back, I don't know. I don't know how all this fits long term. Who do you put on the bench? Probably Taylor Hendricks. Because I don't think the Jazz want to put Ace Bailey on the bench. He's played too well. But what's interesting is Taylor Hendricks has played extremely well also. I don't know if extremely, but he's played really well and really consistent and hitting shots at a consistent level, driving to the basket. His defense looks very good. He looks very smooth. It does look like there's a little bit of conditioning that he still needs to get in post-injury, but that's expected. But both of them look really good and look good together. And we'll see if that changes. Fisher goes on to say, so the phone is bound to ring with proposals for the All-Star forward. Again, though, it has been stressed to me that the Jazz are not looking to move the 7-footer. Markkanen is still in his prime at 28, just had a strong Eurobasket for Finland, and has made no secret of his fondness for Salt Lake City, where he made his All-Star breakout during the 2023-24 season. It was not lost on the Jazz that Markkanen delayed signing his extension in August 2024 until the first day he could ensure that he would not be trade eligible. So this may be much ado about nothing. Maybe the Jazz are kind of deciding between Markkanen and Kessler and want to keep Markkanen, but I tell you what, the Taylor Hendricks play and the Ace Bailey level of play is making this an interesting situation, and we'll have to watch it. The Jazz are listening, but it doesn't mean they're going to make a trade, right? I have people that will you get little letters in the mail saying, I'd like to buy your house. Sure, you can pay me a lot more than it's worth, and maybe I might do it, but unless you're going to do something like that, I'm not selling my house, right? It's kind of a similar type of thing. But what is interesting is Andy Larson, local beat writer here, did go out and say that he thinks Lauri Markkanen will either be traded at the upcoming trade deadline or next offseason. So that's local beat writer Andy Larson talking about that. Interesting that he's getting some sort of intel somewhere. It could be that it's just his own opinion, but from my kind of interactions and knowledge with Andy Larson, he's not going to say something like that unless there's some sort of educated guess behind it. So my guess is that this is a very real possibility. If you want to get super tinfoil hat, it's interesting that Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen have not played in any of the Jazz preseason games. It could be that they are definitely injured. Like, I think they're talking about a sore back for Walker Kessler, although we talked about that last season with players when they were resting them on purpose, and a wrist injury for Lauri Markkanen from Eurobasket. Could be that they're just injuries. It could be that the Jazz just really wanted to see what this core of young players looked like. Walter Clayton, Ace Bailey, Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, Cody Williams, all these young players, and just wanting to see what they look like. And to be honest, it's looked really good offensively. And there are the makings of a pretty good defense there. The defense would have no doubt been better with Walker Kessler on the floor with his rim protection, but the offense wouldn't have been as good. They have done so many different things with Yusuf Nurkic, with him passing the ball from the top of the three-point line. We've seen a lot of that from Kyle Anderson as well. You'll see that he had one game where he had like 6 assists. And basically, the Jazz have been running an offense that I'm sure Will Hardy has wanted to run for a while. They ran it a little bit with Kelly Olynyk, but where you have a center or a big opening up the paint, passing from the three-point line to cutters going to the basket. We've seen a lot of cutting, and it's been really good. UCLA cuts reminds me of back in the day with Karl Malone and John Stockton, making me happy to see the cutting to the basket, something the Jazz have not been able to do since pre-Rudy Gobert. And in all honesty, I would not mind seeing more of it in the future. That is the path to great offense. And if the Jazz can find a way to get some sort of center on this team with these players that can both protect the rim but also be a three-point threat and pass the ball, you can see the makings of an incredible offense that way. And so these are rumors, take them with a grain of salt, but they are things to pay attention to, and we'll continue to just follow every rumor as it comes. Could be nothing, could be something. Let me know in the comments what you think. And by the way, we're going to do the Q&A, so put Q&A in the comments. I'm also going to put a post about it right after I get this uploaded. Guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to the All-Stars and all the members. I appreciate you very much. I will talk to you next time.